We are recording live for episode 95. I am Michael Askins, architect, technologist, and this is the Technology Architecture Solution Engineering Show. In the virtual studio, we have with me back-to-back recording. I have who?
Dev.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going good.
This is going to be a much shorter episode than normal because it's going to be a lighthearted one. Last episode, we talked about some year-end projects certain types of businesses are looking to do, what the focus has been on here in the last quarter as businesses wrap up their year. This show, we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of tech news, and we're going to talk about the upcoming holidays and how to handle some requests we get from people and also what to do for that technologist in your life. So we're just going to make it a lighthearted episode. Things to consider, things to remember. So rolling over to tech news, I'm going to roll over here off to the side. I wanted to, our primary partner at Aspirant, the key sponsor for the show here is Microsoft, is our primary sole focus partner when it comes to cloud and enterprise technology, from everything from AI to data, OS, cloud, collaboration. They are it for Aspirant. We believe in the philosophy of not dropping eggs everywhere, but focusing on one thing and doing it really well. So that is kind of the goal that we have there with the Microsoft Cloud Solutions team over at Aspirant, as well as the application development team that Phil Kostler heads up over there, as well as the rest of the org. Quite frankly, in the management consulting lanes, they have change management competencies, and they have a lot of ability to help people make technology changes. And again, this isn't just an Aspirant commercial. This is a great way to operate a business, in my personal opinion, and that's what made Aspirant so appealing to bring Taste Labs into Aspirant, was the fact that it is all encompassing, end to end, right? Cradle to grave, beginning to close, whatever business phrase you want to use, you're sure to have that checked along the way. And the fact that we are leveraging Microsoft, it's not like, we're going to be out there saying, oh, there's competing product to Microsoft and we're going to throw it against the wall and see what sticks. That's not the case. So that's very comforting to us, as because we can really focus and do well what we want to do well. That's not saying we don't do other technologies. We obviously have to, because the integration with Microsoft into AWS and the integration of VMware and high availability site recovery, like we have that we do all that. But from a partner perspective, that's where it's at. And thinking of some of the news that's been out there recently, and the expansion of Azure and availability zones being turned on in India, and I'm just going to look over here on my screen, just what I harvested from Microsoft news. Azure, Microsoft launches Azure availability zones in central India data center regions. Microsoft launches cyber skilling program to bridge a security gap that is over in India. We're seeing a lot of emphasis in some things in Canada, powering the future of digital payments and solutions in Canada with Azure. We see Norvatis, not a sponsor, empowering scientists with AI to speed the discovery and development, of their products. So we're seeing more and more news and announcements of organizations adopting Azure, and with the global workforce that it is, we're seeing some of this really awesome stuff that we kind of took for granted here in the States, East US and East US 2 and Central and West 1. They are like crazy available zones, and we can be geo redundant. Now that we're able to get some of this technology out in other regions, it'll allow even United States organizations who need to have a global footprint the ability to do these kind of activities as the sun sets, right, as things roll around the earth. We have that skill up and ability. So anything come to mind for you when you start hearing about this scale out? I know that Microsoft, I might be stealing your thought here, so feel free to virtually slap me if I did. They have like the most data centers out there of cloud providers that are geo-dispersed and redundant with LRS, ZRS, GRS. If you don't know what those are, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help explain that to you. It's basically the types of redundant zones. So without going really down the rabbit hole of redundant zones, what are your thoughts when you see this? Is there any other news stories that have like kind of poked out to you? I mean, it's a really quiet time of the year to have these kind of announcements, you know?
Yeah, and I think that when we talk about especially those big global organizations or just a solution in general that needs to be available to customers across the globe or whatever the case may be, we always look at it can't just live in the U.S. We want to put the resources in the closest data center possible to those folk. If it's going to be Europe, India, South America, whatever it's going to be, So a lot of times when Microsoft has been rolling out these new regions and stuff like that, sometimes they came out with just one availability or two availability zones, and now that they get them added later, and that's always a good thing, especially if it needs to be really redundant in that area. So I definitely see that, and kind of still in the cloud realm, but not talking about Azure. I mean, obviously the AWS had their outage yesterday, and the East US, which is a critical area for everyone from that perspective.
It was a significant impact on a lot
Yeah,
of things, even tertiary things.
yeah. So a lot of times, and that's when we look at the different big cloud companies doing that, the ability to have those redundant zones and things like that, especially if some rogue piece of code gets out there and blows stuff up and it takes stuff down, to have that fallback is necessary. Albeit if you didn't push it out to all the zones at the same time, I would think they would have procedures in place not to do that. And I'm not quite sure what happened with AWS yesterday, as far as that goes, but
There was that
um,
one cable behind that one rack that was on the floor that one person tripped over and yanked it out.
exactly.
That's mentally when stuff like that happens. Like, okay,
But yeah, having the fault tolerance and redundancy is super critical. I feel like, especially from a customer perspective, for us who use the cloud services, and even for the cloud companies themselves, if something were to happen and things are impacted, with AWS, if things were impacted from an East perspective, if people have that, if customers design their solutions right, there should be fault tolerance to fall back to a different region, for
yeah,
resources. It may take maybe a little bit longer to load, but things will make it there. So
yeah,
I think solution designing,
agreed.
even for the customers and the cloud solution people themselves, so they don't roll out a change that might break everything to all zones at once, to roll out to one zone at a time. I think that's super critical to have those fallbacks.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. There are some services that are really hard to do that with, and that's usually around the identity zone. And Microsoft
Yeah.
got a little beat up this year around some of those challenges, because it's one of those things where it's like it's an all or nothing type of a big bang evolution. You just need to have your rollback plan or your recovery plan in place to make to come back from that. And luckily, Microsoft does have those, and we saw a little bit of challenge this year, but I think they were overcome with great speed.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's not a listener out there cursing me out in their commute home listening to this saying it took me a whole weekend to do something. So apologies if it did. I'm not minimizing the fact that it happened. Christopher List, who's a regular guest for our data download episodes, he and I talked to that on one of the previous shows, and Microsoft owns it, right? It wasn't dark, like the apparent crickets that a lot of people heard who had AWS services that were not functioning as required. But we're not going to make this an AWS smashing
No.
episode. But I think one of the things I wanted to pull from the news is that we're seeing this great investment from Microsoft in their cloud data centers, and we're seeing the investment in the products that ride on top of those data centers. And the payoff is that we have this happening at global scale now, and it gives us abilities that we didn't have, or we increased our service. We increased our service potential by making sure that we have zones and regions to run things in. Now, mind you, if you're geo constrained or what have you, then that doesn't apply to you. You're not going to have your data move all around the world. But there are customers in manufacturing and materials and finance that need to be global, and this helps, right? And if you think of the technology output that comes out of regions like India, It's good to see that there's that investment there for those who offshore. That it's super useful for them to have the resources to develop against in a more timely manner. So, I applaud that in keeping that global community moving along. Kind of pivoting a little bit away from that. Again, not really tech news. I just wanted to bring up a tone of what's happening. But one thing that is happening is that the holidays are fastly approaching, as we said on the last show. So what do you do for that technologist in your life? Um, Not turning this into the Better Homes and Garden version of like, hey, let's just kick back and talk about what I want to have. Um,
I hope they're
but
listening.
they are. But the reality is this organizations show their commitment to their employees in multiple ways, and I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but sometimes there's that time where maybe a leader or somebody wants to recognize a technologist for maybe going above and beyond with some personal gift or something during the holidays, or maybe their whole team. So that happens at times. Sometimes it's just pancakes and bacon. Sometimes that's all it takes. um,
This is true.
for those of you who are just listening, I just pointed at myself. And those of you who know what I mean by holiday pancakes, you know what I mean. So sometimes it's a loved one that you just don't know what to do because you're not a technologist. Maybe you are a technologist. I'm at the age right now where the
You
gift
don't need
giving.
anything else.
I
You got
don't.
10, you got 10 Surface Books. You're good.
I could always use 11. Before I lose my voice, because you can hear it's going. It's been a nonstop talk day. But you're right. I don't really. I don't. It's not about things, right? It's not about things. I get more pleasure in making other people happy the older I got, and I'm not saying that for applause and hearts starting in the comments. I mean that's true. I mean because if you think of it, throughout the year, I'm a woodworker, right? If I need a tool to do a particular job, I'm not going to say, "Ooh, I got to wait till Christmas to do that job, and hopefully I get that." I'm going to ask Santa for that. That's just not how it works when you get older. And then you obviously, the time with your loved ones as you get older, you want the time with your loved ones more so than things from them. Now, showing that gratitude or gesture or heartfelt gift is always nice to do, but in my mind, not required at the age I'm at, right? No, I just made myself sound really old. I'm really not, but that being said, as I mentioned to you, it's not like you don't want to go buy a 3-pack of PNY thumb drives that are 8 meg a piece and say, "Hey, you're a technologist. Here you go." And a lot of the times, like one of the nicer things I got was, when my firstborn was 1 years old, was an actual mouse pad of me in the grass playing with my daughter. Right, that was like awesome, and I actually used it as a mouse pad because I want to be like, oh yeah, look, it's all dirty, and it got to the point where like I'm like, yeah, it was a nice picture that I just dragged a mouse over top of, and so like yes, that's great, and now it became part of my desk as an accoutrement where I would like sit things. Like if I have these super fast external USB-C discs for editing video. I can edit the video right off of them. I don't need to copy them right to. They're like crazy fast, and like that's my landing zone, so I don't lose them, right? Like so like there is people will take something like that, and you'll be like, you're not running your mouse across the face of your loved one. Well, maybe it's because they don't want to do that, and they want to use it as like a picture, but not a picture, and a place to put, you know what I'm saying, like a special place that is like hallowed ground, if you will. So like things like that are kind of cool sometimes, but sometimes not cool depending on who you are. And if like I'm not going to give you a picture of me laying in the grass with my 1-year-old. So that is kind of one of the biggest challenges is like getting something for that technologist. It matches them and their personality. So the one thing that I just wanted to throw out there is people, if their personal laptops, stickers were a big thing. I'm a big sticker person. Really, I know people are like, really, still stickers?
I'm not a big sticker person.
I love the stickers.
I don't know I don't like this. Okay, let me clarify. I don't mind the stickers, but I don't want to stick them on my machine. especially if I'm going to trade it in or something. I can't do it.
I am not trading it
You
in.
you don't trade yours in. That's the thing.
I,
They'll
I
burn
ride
and
them.
we'll sit there and
I ride them till there's a little nuclear cloud, poof, and there's nothing left. And then when there's nothing left, I take them apart and take the things out of them that I can do something with. So yeah, that's not a challenge. And let me preface this. So like my main work drivers that are not my Aspirant, thank you for sponsoring the show, Aspirant machine. I only have one sticker on that machine, only to identify my machine if I'm ever in a room of other Aspirant people. So when all the laptops are there, lids closed, I'll know which one's mine. But my daily drive, my Surface Book 3, no stickers. My Surface Book 2, I have a few on it. My Surface Book 1 is like, I'm surprised it don't overheat. There's so much vinyl stuck to that thing. So, but there might be some sort of a thing for that technology worker that might like stick out. So, and again, I know a lot of gamers. Like if anybody's ever seen videos that I've done, probably not, because a lot of them have been direct for corporations. But the way I'm facing now with my dungeon behind me, my ice dungeon, because it's nice and blue down here. When I face that way, which this camera's on, there's a wall of signs that basically, if you were to look at these signs, that would be me, right? Pittsburgh Penguins, live long and prosper, Everton, Caterpillar, DeWalt, bunch of transportation stuff. Like, but there are things that are kind of nerdy too, and that are cool. Like, old metal Donkey Kong signs from like original GameStops and like original video game manufacturing. So like there's things like that. If you have that home office that kind of brightens their day and their life, I will say that the one thing that you probably want to avoid is that 3-pack of freaking PNY 8 MB thumb drives that you found on Woot. So aside from a new webcam for you, since you're so blurry today,
yeah, I've been trying to fix it covertly as you talk.
The big palm to the camera was not covertly. So those of you who are audio only, Dev's been gyrating back and forth in front of the camera, trying to get it to focus on him. He even tried the whole like hand reveal thing, but it didn't work. Yeah. So like I said, I told you listeners, this will be a lighthearted video. So go for requests here, Dev.
I don't have a lot of requests this year for myself. I mean, I think that a lot of times, I mean, especially for people like us, we work in a lot of different form factors and things like that. If your person you're shopping for doesn't have a tablet or something like that, tablet's always a nice gift.
But do you want somebody picking a tablet out for you, or do you
want
to split it yourself?
Therein lies the rub.
That's kind of what
give me the money and we'll go get it together.
Samsung gift card credits or whatever they do there.
Not
iThing, Samsung.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's also true. But the flash drives are not a good look.
if you're giving your technologist an iThing, Krampus will visit you. If you don't know who Krampus is, you need to look it up. It's the anti-Santa.
iThings are okay. They're okay. They're doable.
Carrying on. We're time sensitive here, so carrying on. Yeah, so you're right. If there's a tablet or something like, here's the other thing too. Again, this is me not being picky, but then again, I do have a lot of devices. So I have an old Surface Book, not a Surface Book, an old Surface Pro that I use solely as a whiteboard that I add to all my meetings. So if I need to whiteboard something out, I just boom on my desk and it whiteboards it with Microsoft Whiteboard. Pretty amazing, right? You're not going to want to go to eBay and buy a Surface Pro 3 and say, here you go. But if you're a technologist and you are struggling to give a loved one some idea, there you go. Give them that idea. I think that, everybody needs to have an Azure subscription.
Here you go for Christmas.
I got a pile of Azure. I got a pile of cloud.
I'd be floored.
I'm going to talk about this on the MAIT Pro video coming up here around holidays. But there are a couple things I'm going to show off here that might help you or get your technologist if they're into it. So number one, you can see I'm in the ice cave. I have above my head. This is no sponsorship here, by the way. No affiliate links, none of that stuff. I don't do that here. This is a Spirent sponsored show. If you want that kind of a thing, you need to go somewhere else. But on this particular show, no, I'm not, there's no paid placement or anything, but this stuff is wonderful for home office automation. I have routines set up on my phone. I can control all my tangential lights or my tertiary lights, not my recording lights, by an app on my phone. So I can set the stage for a client meeting versus a recording here in the ice cave versus if I have a green screen behind me, or I'm rubbing up against the brick wall, so I have all these different lighting things, and they are done through Wise bulbs. But also the plugs are pretty useful too. I like to use the plugs, and I kind of failed on that on this last recording because I have a auxiliary heater in this room that I would like to shut off when I record so you don't hear that noise. Apologies if it came across, but it's nice if you're going to jump on. Like, one of the worst things you can do in the wintertime or in the summer if you have auxiliary cooling is to jump on a very critical client call, and then all of a sudden hear the machine running and clicking and clacking, and maybe there's a bird in there all mad because it's blowing its nest around, or what have you. So Wise makes some really cool stuff. One of the other things that I that I have in my home office that is kind of really super ideal because a lot of packages come, especially for the other show. Simple things like, go to Lowe's and get them a utility knife that they're not going to jack up their deliveries for. So when they get their screens and they're dragging a sharp knife across, they have box openers. There's small little things here and there that you can get your technologist. And one of the other things that I want to call out, so we're remote work. I'm like 100% remote work. Some other things keep me grounded at home or in the office, not probation, it's just easier in my life to be here. But I do like to run over to Reginald's, the unofficial coffee house of our show, of all my shows. And when I go there, I have these Anchor batteries. There's also some RAV power batteries too. You can get those relatively cheap on Amazon. Well, I say relatively cheap depending on what your income is. There are some that are super expensive that can power your house from Mars. Like, for
I
instance,
just got one of those on Black Friday. Because sometimes my power gets weird if it's really windy outside.
You get a
So
Jackery.
I got it's one of the it's like a boombox type thing.
Yeah, it's mine. A Jackery. Is it orange and black?
Jackery. Yeah, I got it on. It was like it was on sale on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, whatever it was, and I got the
blend
free USB ports, the actual plug, and a car charger port. If you
There's a PD port on them too, so you can actually charge a laptop with them. Yeah. I have a bunch of those. They're actually called solar power generators, or what the official name is, because you can plug a solar panel into them and they can charge them. Super useful, especially if you're remote and you're driving around. I know a gentleman who takes an RV across country and records a web channel, and I'm sure he's got some power stuff going on like that too as well. So you can never go wrong with those kind of things. Now, if your mouse is not a Logitech V3, the MX V3, you're doing it wrong.
I think I still have the V. I don't know what version is. I get the MX Master 2S, the one I got when we first met.
Yep,
so it's stayed strong. It's good.
I got that one over here powering my other stuff, but things like that. I think the key takeaway is that if that's something your technologist wants, don't make decisions for them, because keyboard and mice are very personal things. My better half is a hairstylist, and I dare not ever buy her scissors. Because how does it feel? What's the weight? There's like so much into every career, and every career and job is important. and every career and job has some level of tooling, and there's certain toolings that are personal, and I think keyboard and mice are personal. So if that's something that they have, these packages right now of like the keyboards and mice, and like they're super affordable. And even if you're open and upfront saying, hey, did you want, well, I mean, getting them what they would like is more important. They're going to use and appreciate is more important than doing some grand gesture that's going to fall short, which you'll never know, because hopefully they won't say anything to you rudely about like, oh yeah, you got me that tablet, but it's only got like 2 gig of RAM, and I can't even load the Play Store.
Oh,
So
that's
so
so sad.
yeah, there's a lot of them out there. I mean, there's a ton of those really low scoped out tablets. So, like, think of your technologist and think of it in the framing that I just gave you. And if you're looking to get something for your tech team from a business perspective, think of something out of the ordinary. I'm just going to leave it at that. Think of something that they would appreciate, that might like into their life and career, but you know it'll be a reminder of that year and your time with them. So that's all we had for today. We wanted to do a real quick, and we wanted to bring this up now because with the logistics and shipping issues that are going all over, you need to get your orders in now. I'm getting 2-day Prime stuff a week late already, and it's not like I'm out in the boonies. I'm in a pretty populated area, and I see 80 Prime trucks an hour go by my house. So there's logistics issues still. So be meaningful, be thoughtful. Sometimes a heartfelt note and a pile of cookies does the job. Sometimes it's just pancakes and bacon. I leave it at that. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah, gift cards are great too. If you don't know what to get them, gift cards to
But
your
don't get the vanilla Visa gift cards because there's service charges on them.
exactly. Yeah, if you got gift cards to Best Buy or any tech store out there or anything like that that they can just go hog wild on, that works as well too.
Man,
We'll be
I wish
just
we had a
we'll be
fries out here.
we'll just be just as grateful.
Man, I really wish we had a fries out here. Uh, all right. That being said, let's wrap this up. We've kept our listeners long enough. So again, thank you, Aspirant Management and Technology Consulting. They help make this show possible. They are also part of our day job lives. So we do appreciate Aspirant and the whole team over there. You can follow Dev at DevlinMD13, link in the show notes, and you can also follow me at PRIMED3. And again, I've been saying this since that Chris episode. One day the story will come out how that happened. It'll be underwhelming, I guarantee you, but one day that Twitter handle will make its way out there and how I acquired that. So again, thank you all very much. We thank you as listeners and we thank you as viewers. Again, thank Aspirant, but thank you. Have a good day. Have a good night.